Hi there. I'm going to redo this whole talk that I just did because my microphone didn't work. So here we go. I'm going to talk to you this evening about stress and muscular tension. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what happens in your body, the cascade of chemistry that happens, and how stress can lead to muscle tension and does lead to muscle tension, and how chronic stress and anxiety over time can lead to a host of chronic pain and debilitating issues. So let's get started with our talk about stress and muscular tension. Again, I'm Kat Matlock here at Free Body. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. I'd love for you to leave a comment. If this talk helps you, go ahead and subscribe if you find this content useful. Um, and let's get started. Let's talk about this stress and muscular tension. So first, we have to understand a little bit about stress and what that does in the brain. So there's a little part in your brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala. One of its jobs is to kind of look around and be like, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is there a threat? Is there a danger? And what is also has been researched is understanding how the amygdala stores memories associated with our experiences. So if you have a negative experience and there's fear involved, your brain is going to store that in the body, typically somewhere. And so that the amygdala has a file to pull that says, okay, these conditions, maybe a person has harmed you. When you see that person again, your body knows to send you into fight or flight. Your nervous system knows to send you into fight or flight because they recognize the person and they see that that person is dangerous. And so they're going to send you into a fight or flight response. So the amygdala is the part of the brain that's kind of in charge of checking to see, is there a threat? Is there not a threat here? And then it's in charge of beginning the shift of your nervous system into what might be the sympathetic nervous system. And I say might because we have fight or flight and we have freeze. And now there's a fourth called fawn, which is another subject altogether. But we have fight or flight and freeze. And fight or flight and freeze are two very different experiences in the brain and in the nervous system. Fight or flight is a sympathetic nervous system activation, which for years people have been saying it's like the gas pedal, the sympathetic nervous system, things amp up, right? That's a lot true. Your blood pressure increases, your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, your muscular contraction increases, inflammation increases. But at the same time, other things are shut down. Digestion shuts down. Um, your immune function shuts down, your sex drive shuts down, all of these things that aren't necessary for survival in the immediate moment shut down. And then the things that you might need, like fists, right? Muscular contraction in the flexor muscles of the body, um, rapid breath, higher blood pressure to get more oxygen to your muscles so that you can fight or run for a long period of time. That's all going to increase, right? So that's sympathetic nervous system, a sympathetic nervous system response. That's fight or flight. Freeze is like too much parasympathetic nervous system or an overabundance of parasympathetic response, where it's actually your brain is reading the situation as, I'm not going to be able to get out of this. So I need to make this somehow manageable. And this is what we see in as children go through a childhood with a lot of trauma or neglect or abuse. What ends up over time is that your brain sends you into a dissociative state where you're kind of off over here, kind of pleasant. There could be a pleasantness to it because there is not adrenaline, endorphins get released in the brain. And so, there's like, of course, a traumatic experience is not pleasant, but it makes it manageable because your system is so freaked out about what's happening, and you're not going to make it if you have to actually process what is actually happening in a very traumatic state. So then you might go into a state of freeze. And that's actually a big parasympathetic nervous system response. And that does not increase muscular contraction. Fight or flight, however, really does. Fight or flight state in the brain, in the nervous system, is going to send a message to contract to all of your flexor muscles. Now, the number one flexor muscle that it instigates contraction in first is the psoas, which is that deep belly muscle that lives way up, goes up through the respiratory diaphragm and goes up and along the spine, front and sides of the spine, comes down, and it's what pulls you in to a ball when you're upset. So maybe we'd do another talk on psoas and stress and anxiety, chronic tension in that, and chronic low back pain, because they're very related. But when we go into this fight or flight state, the muscles that flex, that bend the joints essentially, go into a state of contraction because your body is preparing for you to like kick some ass. Basically, it's preparing for you to be able to like, kick and punch. You might find yourself curling your hands up into fists when you're angry because you want to punch, right? Or you might find yourself wanting to curl up into a ball because that psoas is contracting as a result of the state of stress in your brain. Now, unfortunately, what happens over time is that our our brains can get stuck in fight or flight, or become what we call hypervigilant, which means that they're really quickly can jump into the fight or flight state. Like, it doesn't take much to get upset. And so when we go into that hypervigilant state, what one of the things that happens is that we become really easily triggered in that fight or flight, and so we can hold a lot of tension in our muscles. And it might be that the shoulders are lifting to get ready to punch, that you might get finger issues, wrist issues, shoulder pain, neck pain, definitely for sure. Which I'll just mention that one of the groups of muscles that gets stuck in fight or flight is the scalenes in the neck, because the scalenes, if you watch my neck when we go into stress breathing, those scalenes muscles activate to lift the ribs so that your lungs can take a bigger and fuller breath. This can lead to a whole host of problems, including aching between the shoulder blades, radiating numbness and tingling down the arms, chest pain. That can all happen from just some tension in those scalenes neck muscles. All the rest of the muscles in the body that flex begin to contract so that you can fight or run, right? And then over time, that if the stress turns into anxiety because we get stuck in a hypervigilant state and become really reactive and sometimes overreactive. And let's face it, right now we're all in a collective trauma with the pandemic of the coronavirus, and it's been over a year that things have been shut down, that we can't see the faces of our beloveds, we can't hug and hold the people that we love, and we're significantly limited in the things that we do to appease our nervous systems, being with people we love, going out dancing, going to the movies, spending time with friends. All of those things have been reduced significantly or turned to nothing because of the situation. So we don't have the kind of soothing techniques that we have had before. So when we get into a state, a traumatizing situation, or a state of anxiety, which is chronic stress over time, it can lead to chronic pain in your body, because you're holding, those flexors are holding a state of tension because they're ready all the time. And And over a period of time, that tension gets stuck. And then that, in my world, we call that trigger points. They're focal points of tension. And you can get tension trigger points in whole groups of muscles. As a matter of fact, that's pretty much always how it happens. Not just one muscle is kind of freaking out. The whole group gets overstimulated or too much tension in it. And so over time, that too much tension can lead to pain. And then over a longer time, it can lead to a lot of debilitation in the body. Now, what's interesting, I've been a body worker now for 29 years. And as I've had my hands on and around people's bodies and tens of thousands of bodies, which is such a gift, one of the things that I see is that people who have chronic debilitating conditions, like at least all the people that I've worked with who have fibromyalgia or chronic pain, also have a history of trauma. They also have a history of some sort of traumatic neglect or abuse or traumatic experience. And it has triggered in them a chronic inflammatory response and a chronic tension, that leads to just for some, a constant or a fluctuating state of pain in their bodies. So this is really fascinating to me to think about this connection of stress and muscular tension and muscular and body pain, really. And it becomes, once we start looking at it, becomes really necessary to learn how to regulate our nervous systems so we're not stuck in a state of hypervigilance, so that we don't get stuck in a state of anxiety, and so we don't experience chronic pain and dysfunction in our bodies, because muscles being tense don't just cause pain, they also cause arthritis and bone issues and joint problems and all kinds of things. So the simplest way, the most basic way that you can begin to unwind tension in your body and down regulate your nervous system out of a state of sympathetic nervous system response or fight or flight. Remember, freeze is a parasympathetic response. In that case, you actually need to stimulate the nervous system. You might need to get up if you're in a start going into dissociation or state. You might need to get up and like jump up and down, right? It's your nervous system kind of shutting off. But when we get into the fight or flight, what we need to do is bring things down. And the best way is belly breathing. So we're just going to take a couple of long, slow, deep belly breaths together, regulate our nervous systems, and help us to release tension in the body. And if you're feeling tension in your body or in your nervous system or pain in your body, one of the best things to do is to lay down on the floor on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, or on a couch or something, and breathe deeply in your belly. So the diaphragmatic breathing is a direct signal to your brain that you're safe, because when you're not safe, what do? You stress breathe and you go, oh no, I'm nervous, right? But when you diaphragmatic breathe, when you breathe in the belly, you send a message directly into your nervous system. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's okay. And I'm safe right now, because you could not possibly breathe that way if you were being chased by a crazy dog or something like that. So let's do it together right now. We'll take two long, slow, deep belly breaths. You're going to bring your hands to your belly so you can really feel your belly expand. So we're going to inhale in the belly. Exhale. Let's do that again together. Inhale. Just kind of notice that just two breaths in the belly can bring a state of calm or a greater state of ease into your nervous system, and thereby into your entire muscular system and pretty much everything else in your body. So thanks so much for joining me. If this content has been helpful to you, please like, subscribe, do all the things. Leave a comment if there's an aha here for you, or if there's something new that you learned, something interesting. Let me know. building of this community together and people talking and sharing ideas. So please leave a comment. And thank you so much for taking this time with me today. Good night.